Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for GWBC Radio's Open for Business. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, broadcasting live from GWBC Power of Partnering event at the Georgia Power headquarters. So excited to be talking to my guest, TeKay Brown-Taylor with Brownstone Mediation Services. Welcome.
Hi. How are you, Lee?
I am doing well. Tell us about Brownstone Mediation Services. How you serving folks?
How we're serving folks? Well, we are in HR, Human Relations, and ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution, management and consulting firm. And we help organizations by identifying where conflict is showing up to help them drive better workplace experiences. And so that's how we're going into organizations and helping them work through and grow their people, their processes, their policies, and their practices. How are they doing things to identify where conflict is showing up?
So now, is your work kind of triaging situations where there is a disagreement and they need mediation, or is it kind of proactive in that you're teaching people how to communicate clearly and more effectively?
It's both. Correct. We want them to be proactive. And so that's where the people, the policies, the practices. So if we can get in and do some work around those things, our idea is to prevent them from needing mediation, but ideally doing mediation as an alternative to doing things like the grievance process and litigation.
Mm-hmm. So what's your backstory? How'd you know you'd be good at something like this?
Well, I've been in HR 18 years exactly. And so I've been doing this work for other organizations for quite a long time, whether corporate, military, nonprofit, serving on many boards.
Always in mediation? Always in
HR.
In HR.
So my background is in HR. And working across those mediums, one thing I identified is conflict being the consistent theme. And most leaders and most employees, individuals being conflict adverse and not comfortable with conflict. And so oftentimes, we don't know what conflict is costing us because it's usually not tangible. We can't see that the person that is taking leave because they don't want to work with TeKay. And we automatically equate it as because we think they're sick.
Now, is conflict really communication?
I love that, Lee, because that's what I say often, is that conflict is a great thing because conflict says that Lee cares about it. He values it. It's important to him as well as TeKay. And so we just have to identify how we can use conflict in meaningful ways. But too often we use it, well, we've been conditioned to think of it in very harmful ways. And so it really boils down to the human relations, the interaction. All that is really just communication, how individuals communicate and interact with each other.
Now, do you find that just people haven't been taught kind of these basic communication skills on how to listen and not talk for a second and let the person express themselves and then, say something rather than just immediately kind of knee-jerk react to whatever is being said?
That is a huge part of it. It's also the confidence, because again, most are adverse because we haven't been taught. You don't see human relations, interactions, intrapersonal skills being taught in primary school, unless you focus on that in communication in the collegiate level. It's not being taught. And so because I'm a part of it as well, haven't acquired those skills through formal education. And so that's a big part of it. But the other piece of it is the confidence, and the other piece of it is the capacity. And then certainly the skills. So I always say when we do any type of conflict work, the skills, capacity, and confidence.
Now, why was it important for you to become part of the GWBC community? Where did you see the opportunity there?
Oh, wow. You said the key word, opportunity. When I learned of the GWBC as well as the WBE and all the work that they were doing, not only for women, for small business, but specifically, not only for women, but specifically for small business. And myself as a growing small business and a woman-owned small business, the work that they're doing in connecting and collaborating. I have been in business 6 years, and I am only where I am as a small business competing at the statewide level We took us 2 years to get there, but we are competing with organizations like Huron Consulting, Ernst & Young, Deloitte and Touche as a small business owner. And I've only been able to do that because of relationships and teaming. And I've only been able to do that because of programs like GWBC.
Now, any advice for our listeners that, or maybe some low-hanging fruit on communication and conflict? Any kind of do's and don'ts you can share?
Ooh, I can go a ways of the first. I would say is silent, because you mentioned the word listen, and that's a big part of when we start talking about conflict. Listen is spelled silent backwardly. And oftentimes when we start talking about conflict, I would really say what I said first is being reconditioned about how we think about conflict. Conflict's a good thing. But when we get into the skill side of it, is some of the practical things. That one is is just being listening. Individuals are not willing to do any work until they feel like they have been listened to. And so disagreement is always going to be your perspective, my perspective, your interest, my interest, your position, my position. And we're always going to have a barrier or something preventing us to get to an agreement because of the listen word. You're not going to listen to me until you feel listened to.
Mm-hmm. So it's something that if you do that well, you might be saving yourself some conflict, or more, even if you have conflict, it would be handled more effectively.
And also know that it's a muscle. It's something that has to be.
Right. You got to practice.
You have to practice, build it, develop it, grow it. And don't be afraid of the professional.
Right.
Oftentimes we think professionals have to even continue to do work on that. We do a lot of work group work with other professionals, learning, training, development. And so if we're doing all this work as professionals, as skilled experts, we don't expect for just the general employee or leader to automatically have these skills without the training, practice, and hyper focus on conflict resolution skill, capacity, and confidence building.
So if somebody wants to learn more, connect with you or somebody on the team, what's the website? What's the best way to connect?
Our website is brownsstonemediation.com. We are also on 2 social platforms. That's LinkedIn and Facebook. And you can also contact me directly or my team at info@brownstonemediation.com.
Well, TeKay, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you for allowing me to spend time with you. Thanks so much.
It.
I appreciate it.
All right. This is Lee Cantor with GWBC, Power of Partnering.